It just went blank. There was nothing there. It wasn't that I was rephrasing anything.
I couldn't see anything.
I had a question. As I went in, I had a question, and it just went completely.
You changed your mind. You thought it's like an inappropriate
blank
question to ask.
Yes. Welcome to CMS Unscripted. Today we have our managing partner-elect, Adrian Bell. He used to be, or he still is actually, a disputes partner in the firm and starting as our managing partner in April. Hello, Adrian. Welcome to the podcast. This is, as the title suggests, unscripted, so we'll just have a chat and see who the man is behind the myth. You're in London this week, but you've been traveling quite a lot, right? Is it like, are you one of those like the rock stars that doesn't know which gig they're at?
Yeah, it's a bit like that. It doesn't feel particularly rock starish, but I've always, because of the, you mentioned I was a disputes lawyer, I've always had a very international practice, so very used to travelling. But I tend to do it in sort of fits and starts because the family get a bit irritated, to be frank, when I'm away, and also it's a bit tiring. So I do 4 or 5 months of sort of fairly intensive travel at the beginning of the year, give myself the summer off.
I was going to ask you, what are your top tips for all that travel, jet lag? Do you kind of not eat on the plane? Do you have 3 gin and tonics? Which way do you go?
Yeah, my most regular sort of travel route is to the Middle East. So I've got that down to a T, and I always get the same plane, have the same routine. So I eat at the airport, don't eat on the plane, because typically they sort of, aren't particularly efficient with the service. So and the flight to the Middle East is that funny length. So if you're leaving kind of 9:30 at night, by the time they've served food and drink, turn the lights off, you don't end up getting much sleep. And I normally go straight into meetings the next day. So trying to maximise the sleep, get a good sort of 4 hours on the plane. You need to make sure you're not eating. But I do usually have a cheeky gin and tonic and sometimes a plate of nuts. Also, my son has a nut allergy, so I don't get to eat nuts very often. So when I'm on a plane, I enjoy the opportunity to eat the nuts.
Indulgent.
Exactly.
So you're now already gearing up to becoming managing partner in just a few weeks. Has that been messing with your schedule now then? You need to combine it, 2 jobs already?
Yeah, I think it's been, Stephen has been sort of very gracious with his time in terms of handover. So we spent a lot of time talking, working together, attending meetings. I've been sort of shadowing him, but also a lot of the travel I've been doing as part of my old role. So I was previously, or I am, the managing director for Middle East and APAC. So that's always, as I mentioned, involved a lot of travel, but then you kind of layer over what you need to do in terms of sort of stepping into the managing partner's role as well. You
mentioned that you've been playing with Lego over the holidays.
Yeah.
Is that what did you build?
So I always build a Lego model in the Christmas holidays because I kind of find it's a enforced way to do something different. I'm one of those people that like to be busy. And if I don't do something like that, then I'm sort of typically annoying people around the house, sort of cleaning up things. So I've got into this rhythm of building this Lego model. And I've got quite a nice collection of the Technic cars now. So this year I built the AMG G-Wagon. It's a big orange G-Wagon, 3,500 pieces, I think it was. I actually bought the kit last year to make, but then one of my children unfortunately got the Home Alone Lego set, and I was pulled into building that instead, so I didn't get to build my own model. So it's been sat in the box gathering dust over the last year. So I was very pleased to actually finally build it this year.
Is that with traps, the Home Alone set?
Yeah, it's got everything. The only thing we haven't built yet is the tree house. So it has the sort of the line down to the tree house. So we built the actual house that opens up, and they've got even sort of the cupboard that falls down with the tarantula that runs out. But we haven't yet built the tree house itself. So there's still bits to go. But yeah, our house is covered in Lego, whether it's mine or the children's.
I love that. I should get that set. I was a really big Home Alone fan when I was little.
Yeah, no, it's inspiring me as well. We're quite into Star Wars Lego in our household, and I have nothing to do with it. So, but it sounds like so it's a solo pursuit, the Lego. It's a sort of a mindful
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing
it's a mindful thing. So they know when I'm building Lego not to come and talk to me. And the understanding at home, and I rarely get any time to do much on my own, is sort of they leave me alone when I'm building Lego. I try and do sort of 2 or 3 hours a day for however long it takes, normally 3 or 4 days, and then it's done. And that's the time I get to myself for the year.
Are you like avoiding screen time as well? Is that what part of it or not?
Yeah, try to as well. And it's it's difficult to do. I've got 3 young kids and they're really into their screen, so it's trying to get them to do other stuff and build in that kind of non-screen time discipline at home. Also, when you're sort of like what it's like when you're at home and your laptop's there and you see an email, it's sort of easy just to jump on your laptop and open it up and do a bit of work. So it's trying to create that sort of discipline. I usually do it in that period between, I can't remember what it's called, Christmas and New Year. It's got
12 days
terminology or something. Someone was telling me this.
Something, but I just feel it's just the grim time.
Exactly.
Days have no meaning, that kind of
yeah,
time.
when you lose track of time. So just do it then. It's sort of dead time otherwise. But it's it's more for mindfulness. I think it's a good point, Linda.
I don't share that, but I respect it.
Right, okay. You don't share being mindful?
No, I very
Lego.
much share being mindful. I just find Lego, I think my son's quite disorganised when he does it. So it's just, I find it in random places on the floor at home and then step on it and get quite cross because it's really painful.
You're building anxiety rather than Lego sets.
Yeah, that probably says a lot about my mindfulness. Probably need a bit more mindfulness for that.
Over Christmas, you've also been thinking a little bit about the strategy or all the stuff that you'll be involved in this year. Is there anything that you can give us a little bit of a sneak peek of in terms of your thinking for the next year?
Yeah, I think one of the things I was trying to do over Christmas is kind of almost distill all of the things I've been sort of listening to and learning about during the period when I found out I was going to be taking on this role. So there's lots of initiatives. Saying we had a call this morning to our alumni, saying on that call, we've got almost our problem is we've got loads of too many great people with too many great ideas. So it's about trying to rationalise that. And I think one key focus for me is to be sort of really disciplined this year about picking the ideas that are actually going to be the most impactful and that are all going to go to driving the strategy and not just sort of letting everyone do all of the ideas, because I think otherwise there's a risk that things won't get done or they won't get done properly, and we won't be picking the things that are actually going to move the needle as much as we want to move it.
So is there a particular theme that you're going down in terms of that focus?
Yeah, well, our vision that we talk about a lot is about clients and to be the leading relationship law firm. So a lot of the initiatives that I've been trying to prioritize have been all driving to that. So it's a lot about the focus and the discipline. It's making sure that I think we've got those processes and procedures in place internally. We're going through putting in place a new people strategy, so that's something we're refreshing. So I think it's making sure that is forward thinking enough, and obviously with the increased use of AI and innovation and tech, we need to make sure that we're moving away from the ways that law firms traditionally rewarded people on chargeable and billable hours and building in all of those other mechanisms to incentivize them to be innovative and forward thinking. I think pushing the boundaries, that's one thing I think we've always been good at doing as a firm. But we just need to make sure that's kind of really ingrained in all of the models just to support that way of thinking.
It's a bit like the Lego, isn't it? You've got to have all the right building blocks to have that bigger picture. Is there sort of one thing in particular you're kind of looking forward to the most this year?
I think it's about getting around and seeing people. I think in my previous roles, I've been lucky to have spent time, as I said, overseas in the Middle East and Asia. I've spent less time in places like Central and Eastern Europe where we have really sort of strong practices. So I think this role gives me, not an excuse, you probably don't need an excuse, but a big part of the role, I think, as I see it, is about getting around and speaking to people. And that's all people. It's partners, it's business services, it's fee earners, it's everyone across the whole office. I think really very keen to get out on the road, see people, talk to people, understand their priorities, particularly in the offices which probably don't get as much foot traffic in terms of senior leadership. I'm ambitiously planning a trip to the Ukraine later this year, so I think that will be something that I'm very much looking forward to if we can make sure that goes ahead, because we've got we've got a very loyal group of employees there. We've had an office, they've been there through all of the tough times recently, so I feel it's the right thing to go there and support them in person. So that's one thing I'm speaking to the managing partner about, trying to set up and arrange when we can get out there at a time which doesn't kind of increase the risk for them as well as for us.
It sounds a bit scary traveling to Ukraine at this point. But
yeah, I think it probably is. I mean, I've travelled to a few scary places in the past. One of my most interesting experiences, so I went for a client visit. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a sort of construction disputes lawyer. So the client said to me, the alarm bell should have run at this point, because they said to me that the hotel has no website that you'll be staying in. And when we landed, we were picked up at the airport by this car, and the driver said, look, we're going to drive to this compound. It was a desalination plant. We're going to drive to this compound. It's about 2 hours drive away. We can't stop even if we get a puncture in the middle of the desert, because it's so unsafe. So if we get a puncture, we just have to keep driving. It's like, fine, okay. So we get to this hotel, and because of this increased security situation, we weren't able to stay on the compound, which was heavily fortified. So there were tanks and armed guards at the sort of perimeter fence of the compound where the client was. But we weren't able to stay there. We had to stay in this hotel, the wrong side of the sort of compound. And I stayed in this hotel room, and it was the most hostile environment I've ever been in. There was a hole in the wall where the air conditioning unit had once been, and it obviously dropped out or corroded, and no one had bothered replacing it. So my bedroom had this big hole in the wall. And there was sort of people very menacing, give you very menacing glances when you came in. So we stayed in this place. We were supposed to be there for a week, but we didn't stay there very long at all. So we kind of went there, did the stuff with the client, and came out again. But that was pretty hairy. And I've had a few other similar experiences where I've gone to places in the past for work that I haven't been particularly comfortable in. Ultimately, I don't want to sound too reckless, but we do it in a controlled way, and I think that's one thing that's built really strong client loyalty with us, because the clients remember us being the ones that have gone there and visited them when nobody else was, and you just sort of, as I said, you build that really strong sense of loyalty with them.
Well, if there's any clients listening, we will tell them that we'll airdrop our partners in wherever you are.
Now that you're kind of moving away from that fee earning side and clients, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the sort of new job that you've got?
I think that was probably the biggest hesitancy I had about taking on the role, because lots of people said to me, why would you, when you enjoy sort of clients, building client relationships so much, why would you want to be so internally focused? But I don't think the role necessarily needs to be or should be as internally focused as people may regard it to be, because ultimately this is a people business, it's a client business. I think the managing partner as well as the senior partner all need to be out there talking to clients, talking to staff. I think so. As far as I'm concerned, and it may be a bit ambitious, I'm planning to continue talking to and engaging with those clients as long as I could. I think it's unrealistic to expect I'm going to have a sort of heavy fee earning role in the same way I would have done in the past on cases, but I don't think that stops me helping to continue to build those relationships with the clients and sort of working with them on some of the more strategic points that they want the more senior lawyers to help them work through.
I mean, you talked a lot about relationships and the importance of it. How do you build relationships? What do you think the secret to success is of good relationships?
I think it's being authentic and being one of the things I was saying during the election process is being an authentic person, being accessible, going out listening to people. I've always listened to everyone's perspectives and then tried to sort of find the best answer rather than sort of imposing my views on people. I wouldn't say necessarily I'm sort of a particularly consensual person, but I think it is about listening to perspectives and then making a decision which you feel is right and then backing it up. And a lot of it's about empowering people as well. I've always, in my various sort of leadership roles, always been really keen to empower people to get on and do things. I don't like this kind of micromanaging style, but equally sort of, people do look to you when you're on these senior roles for some direction. So again, it's sort of getting that balance, but it's about being a normal person, I think, and sort of, someone that people can relate to. I think being accessible, being authentic. So there's no kind of magic ingredient, I don't think, but one of the funniest things, I still get a lot of mickey taken out of me by my mates, who are sort of plumbers and electricians and things. They're like, I can't believe you're actually managing partner of a massive law firm. You're so normal. But kind of that's just the way I've always been, I think.
So you've been at the firm since the beginning of your career, right?
Yeah, so you can say the beginning of the firm, no.
No, not the beginning of
not
time.
That
since the beginning of time. What made you stay all those years?
Again, it comes back to the people, I think. So, when you say to someone you've been here all your life, I think some people regard it sort of showing a lack of ambition. I mean, I've like most people, I've sort of, looked around over the years and thought, spoken to other firms, interviewed with other firms, been offered by other firms, but I've always come back to my sort of fundamental point that this is a really good firm with really good people. I think the culture is really something that's very special. I've got a lot of friends in the firm. It's an ambitious firm. It wants to improve. It wants to get better. And I think there's huge potential for us to do so. I think, that's why I'm still here, because I wanted to be part of, encouraging the firm and moving the firm in the right direction for its next chapter to really put it in the place in the market where I think it belongs.
Well, one of the things that you talk about a lot these days is about doubling down on our culture. What do you mean by that?
Well, it goes back to the focus point, I think, and the discipline. And we do have a strong culture, but it's about using that culture to our competitive advantage. We need to make sure we're channeling it effectively, but also we're kind of operationalizing that culture. I think the people are good, they're aspirational, they have great ideas, and it's now about sort of channeling that for the greatest business impact, rather than just going around patting ourselves on the back that we've got a good culture. I mean, it's a nice thing to have, but it's not actually going to move the needle and change the direction of a firm. So I think it's about taking that really special culture and cultivating it, but also channeling it to its best effect. So, when I say doubling down, it's about sort of taking the culture, as I said, operationalizing it, really focusing people's attention to put the culture to its best effect.
Are there some stuff that you want to make sure that you safeguard in your personal life, like some hobbies you have at the moment, or some things that when we were talking about to Stephen earlier today, he has quite a lot of community stuff he does in the weekends, and he even goes footballing and so on. Do you have like hobbies that are sacred to you?
Not so much these days in terms of, sort of team sport. I used to play a lot of team sport, but I think it becomes increasingly difficult in this type of job where it's just unpredictable. You don't know what you're going to be doing in the evenings. But I still do a lot of running. I did a half marathon in November in memory of one of our colleagues who sadly passed away last year. So we, as a team, raised money for him. So that was good. I do a lot of running. I do quite a bit of cycling. I do quite a lot of winter sports. So it's kind of coming into my season now. But primarily, sort of when I'm at home, I think the key thing for me to sort of safeguard is to make sure the travel point that we talked about earlier, we picked up. I just need to make sure that doesn't kind of start rolling into weekends. It's very easy for me to say, well, actually, I'm going to fly on a Sunday, so I'm there on a Monday. But with 3 young children, which I've got at the moment, and I work away from home so much, I need to make sure that kind of when weekends arrive, then I'm showing up for them. So I tend to live my life vicariously through them. By going to kind of sports events and watching them play, and imagine it's still me on the rugby field or on the hockey pitch or whatever. But I like it. I think I like hanging out with the kids at the weekend, watching them sort of achieve and progress and grow. So that's kind of the main thing that I just need to make sure that I safeguard, that the weekends, I still get the Saturday and Sunday rather than half the Saturday and half the Sunday, and I'm off coming back late or going off early to other things.
Oh, we're very much looking forward to you living vicariously through us as employees as well when you start.
But not at the weekend. Have you explained to them what the changes would be? How would you explain what the change is going to be?
Yeah, I tried to. I mean, they're still quite young, and they still don't really understand what a lawyer does anyway. My 7-year-old daughter keeps referring to this job that I won. As if it's some
like
kind of
lottery.
I was in a raffle or something. She's like, that job you won, which is quite cute. But I think the oldest one, he was in here for a couple of days pre-Christmas doing bits and bobs. So he's 13, and I think sort of he understands the significance of it, and he's proud. The younger one not so much, but they keep asking me the big question: are you going to get a new office, and where's it going to be, and what the views are going to be? So
key questions, yeah. Sitting, beginning of the year now, this time next year, what would you like to have done?
I think the key thing for me is picking up that sort of continuity piece that we mentioned. I think people will just, Adrian as managing partner will feel, normal and natural to people, and they won't feel there's been a big change. They won't feel that there's been a gulf left by Stephen, but equally they'll feel, things they'll be excited about the direction of travel. So I think it's getting that balance. I'm not sure there's necessarily I wouldn't pinpoint one or two things that I'd have liked to have done other than the new Lego model, of course.
Of course.
But I think, it's just more about sort of making sure people feel happy and confident and have that sort of faith that the firm is on the upwards trajectory and is moving in the right direction. I think, it's a really competitive environment, and I just don't want people to feel that we're sort of changing course or losing momentum. Because we're on track to have a really strong year, and I think it's important for people to feel I'll be building on that rather than coming in and just making changes for the sake of it.
Well, I think our time is about up, but thank you so much for joining us today, Adrian. I do hope you get a new exciting Lego model this year.
I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, have you got one on the
picture of it? Actually, that would be great.
Have you got one on the wish list? Is there like
I need to work out whether I'm sticking with the vehicle theme or not. I've got a new home office, so I managed to get a sort of cheap bookcase, which I've lined them all up on for the first time ever, because otherwise they get confined to boxes under the bed. So yeah,
I mean, this is the conversation I'm having with my 9-year-old son.
There's room for one more. There's room for one more, certainly. Yeah.
Could do like our offices or something. Do one of canopies.
I'll start bringing them in, maybe.
Yeah, decorate the office. Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be great. Well, thank you very much
for
coming, and thank you very much for listening. And we'll see you again next time.
Thank you.